In the Ottoman Empire, cheating a customer could cost you an ear. Not as a saying, literally. A baker who shorted his bread, a merchant who fixed his scales, could be dragged into the street and nailed to his own doorpost by the ear for everyone to see. And that was one of the milder ones. Ottoman justice was fast, public, and creative in ways that sound invented. But almost all of it was real, written into law, and enforced in the open. The Ottoman Empire ran on a legal system that mixed religious law, the Sultan's decrees, and centuries of local custom. Justice was quick. There were no long trials, no drawn-out appeals. And the punishments were designed to be seen, to shame, to warn, and to fit the crime as closely as possible. Some were brutal, some were bizarre, and some sound completely made up. Today, 20 Ottoman punishments that are hard to believe were real. If you like the strange corners of history, subscribe. New episode, let's go. Number 1. The empire employed a special official just to police the marketplace, the mutsib. He inspected weights, checked quality, enforced fixed prices, and punished cheats on the spot. He was inspector, judge, and enforcer rolled into one, walking the bazaar with the power to ruin a dishonest merchant before lunch. Consumer protection, 500 years early, with teeth. Number 2. A merchant caught cheating could be nailed by the ear to his own shop or door. Fixed there in public, in front of his customers and neighbors, the punishment was as much about humiliation as pain. Everyone who passed knew exactly what he'd done. In a world that ran on reputation, that shame could be worse than the wound. Number 3. Bakers were a favorite target because bread was life. A baker who sold underweight or bad loaves might be paraded through the streets wearing his own bread, beaten or worse. Bread fraud in a crowded city wasn't a small crime. It could mean hunger, so the punishments were deliberately harsh and deliberately public. Number 4. Punishments were often matched to the crime or the trade. The idea was that the penalty should visibly connect to the offense, so the lesson was obvious to everyone watching. A dishonest tradesman shamed with the very tools he'd misused. Justice in the Ottoman market was meant to be read at a glance. Number 5. Ottoman justice was fast. A case was usually heard and decided by a single judge. The Qadi, often on the same day, with no jury and no lengthy appeals. He listened, weighed the evidence and the law, and ruled. Number 6. Those courts kept meticulous records, and they were open to everyone. Christians, Jews, women, and the poor all used the Qadi's court, and their cases were written down and preserved. Women appeared regularly to defend property, business, and marriage rights. The court's registers are now one of the richest windows we have into ordinary Ottoman life. Number 7. For many crimes, the punishment was payment, not pain. Islamic law emphasized compensation and restitution, so an offender might be ordered to pay the victim rather than face physical punishment. Even in cases of injury or death, a system of blood money allowed compensation to replace revenge. Justice was often about balancing a debt, not just inflicting suffering. Number 8. The most common physical punishment was the bastonado, a beating on the soles of the feet. Painful and humiliating, but rarely fatal, it was used for a wide range of offenses. The number of strokes was often set by law or by the judge. It hurt, it shamed, and it let the offender walk away and back into society afterward. Number 9. Public shaming was a punishment all its own. A common one was parading an offender through the city seated backward on a donkey, sometimes with a mocking sign or object. The physical discomfort was minor. The social humiliation was the point. In a tight-knit society, being laughed at by your entire neighborhood was a serious penalty. Number 10. Offenders were sometimes made to wear or carry signs of their crime in public. Marked out for all to see, they became a living warning to everyone else. It cost the state almost nothing and worked on the one thing people feared most in a face-to-face world: their reputation among neighbors who would remember for years. Number 11. In some cases, offenders had their faces blackened or were otherwise visibly marked before being led through town. The mark turned the person themselves into the announcement of their guilt. It's a punishment that seems almost theatrical now, but in its time, it was a devastatingly effective way to broadcast a crime without a printing press or a police record. Number 12. At the palace itself, there were designated places, sometimes called example stones, where the heads or belongings of the executed were displayed as warnings. Positioned where officials and visitors would pass, they were a permanent, silent reminder of the cost of treason or serious crime. Power made its point without saying a word. And the higher up you were, the stranger the rules became. Number 13. When a powerful official fell, the state often seized everything he owned. This practice, confiscation, meant a lifetime of accumulated wealth could be swallowed by the treasury in a day. It kept officials from building independent power, but it also meant that rising high in the empire could be as dangerous to your fortune as any crime. Number 14. The most elite offenders faced a bloodless execution by silk cord reserved for the highest ranks. Spilling the blood of the powerful was avoided, so a different, quieter method was used for viziers and royals. It was, grimly, considered a mark of status. The way you were put to death signaled exactly how important you had been. Number 15. Exile and reassignment were common punishments for officials who fell out of favor. Rather than execution, a troublesome figure might be sent to govern some distant, miserable posting, far from the center of power. It removed the threat without the drama of blood and left the door open, sometimes for a return years later if the winds shifted. Number 16. Some criminals were sentenced to the galleys, condemned to row in the empire's warships. It was brutal, exhausting labor that could last for years, effectively a death sentence for many. The state got free muscle for its navy, and the offender vanished from society into the belly of a ship. Punishment and manpower solved at once. Number 17. As strange as the punishments look, most followed rules, not random cruelty. Judges worked within religious law, imperial decrees, and precedent, and offenders had recognized rights within that system. The theatrical penalties weren't chaos, they were a codified logic aimed at deterrence and public order. There was a method behind what looks, to us, like madness. Number 18. Nearly all of it was built around one goal: deterrence through visibility. Punishments were public because their real audience wasn't the offender, it was everyone watching. In a huge empire with limited policing, fear and shame did the work that a modern police force does now. The crowd wasn't a bystander, it was the entire point. Number 19. The system was also deeply unequal by design. The same crime could bring a beating for a commoner and a fine, an exile, or a quiet cord for the powerful. Punishment was tied not just to what you did, but to who you were. It was justice, Ottoman style, consistent in its logic and completely open about its hierarchy. Number 20. In its final centuries, the empire began replacing all of this with modern European-style legal codes. The public shamings, the market justice, the bastinado gradually gave way to formal courts, written codes, and prisons. The strange, theatrical world of Ottoman punishment didn't just fade. It was deliberately dismantled and replaced with something that looks a lot more like our own. Ottoman justice was fast, public, and built to be watched. It nailed cheats to their doors, paraded offenders backward through the streets, and matched the punishment to the crime as closely as it could. Cruel by our standards, yes, but rarely random and rarely hidden. It was a whole philosophy of order, run on shame and spectacle instead of paperwork and prisons. And like almost everything else in the empire, it was eventually swept away and replaced by the modern world. If you want more empires the history books skip past, subscribe. We're not done with the Ottomans yet. There are still corners of this empire stranger than anything we've shown you so far. Tell us in the comments which one we should open next.